Hey, Pastor Josh here. We're reading Acts chapter 4, verses 34 through 37, and we'll see today that God's work befuddles the opposition. God's work makes the enemy, makes the opposition not think clearly. He befuddles the mind of those that are opposed to him. It's actually a very good thing when we can think clearly. When our mind is befuddled, we get all fuzzy in our thinking. But when we're able to think clearly, we're able to get things done. But when our mind is befuddled, when it's all fuzzy on the inside, there is some anxiety that comes our way because we're unsure of the future and exactly what's going to happen. We don't even know exactly what we're supposed to be doing. So when we're befuddled and all mixed up in our brains, it causes us not to operate efficiently. And this befuddling of the mind is exactly what God does to the opposition. It's what God does to the ungodly. We see this in 1 Corinthians 1:27. The Apostle Paul says, God chose what is foolish in the world to shame the wise. God chose what is weak in the world to shame the strong. And so what God does is take the things that seem to be wise in this world and he befuddles them, especially when they come in opposition to the Lord. So for us, we need to keep on doing good. We need to keep on doing what is right because God's work, God comes around us and befuddles the opposition. Keep doing what's good even when people are opposing you because God will work on your behalf to befuddle the opposition. He chooses what is foolish in the world to shame the wise. So let's see that in our reading today. The apostles have been arrested. An angel has just freed them and they have been told to go back out and proclaim the words of life. Boys, you better keep preaching the gospel is what the angel tells them to do. And that's exactly what they go. That's exactly what they go and do. But the religious authorities think they're still in jail. So let's see what happens. When they heard this, they entered the temple at daybreak and began to teach. This is the apostles going into the temple to proclaim Jesus Christ like God has told them to do. But the Pharisees and the religious leaders have told them not to do it. In fact, they were arrested because they were doing it. So let's see what happens. Now, when the high priest came and those who were with him, they called together the council. They called together all the religious leaders and also called the Senate. So this idea that I use when I talk about this council. It's called the Sanhedrin in various places in Scripture. The book of Acts has called them the Sanhedrin. It's the Sanhedrin, the council, and here we even see it being called the Senate, some sort of representation of the people of Israel. So these are the elders, these are the religious leaders that are supposed to be representing the people, and they are gathering together to help make religious decisions and political decisions as much as they are able to, being under Roman authority. So the Jewish Supreme Court gets together and they consult and figure out what are we going to do with these apostles, and they sent to the prison to have them brought. So they go to get the apostles from jail, bring them into the Senate chamber, bring them into the council where they will be judged and interrogated and discussed to see what we need to do with them. And so the officers go to get them. But when the officers came, they did not find them in prison. Oh no, they're not here. We're in trouble. So they returned and reported. They came back to the Jewish Supreme Court. They came back to the Sanhedrin and said, we found the prison securely locked. The doors are locked. Nobody could have got out. And the guards were standing at the doors. There was no way they could get out of there. There's guards there, and it was locked. And the guards were standing at the doors, but when we opened them, we found no one inside. Now, when the captain of the temple and the chief priests heard these words, here's our befuddlement. Here's God befuddling the opposition in the minds of the opposition. Now, when the captain of the temple and the chief priests heard these words, they were greatly perplexed about them. They're not thinking clearly anymore. They're being befuddled, wondering what this would come to. A bit of anxiety, unsure. How is it that these gentlemen, these apostles that were in prison, the doors are locked and there's guards at the door, how Did they get out of prison? There's anxiety. There's befuddlement. And notice, it's not just the captain of the temple, it's also the chief priests. So these religious leaders, the high-ranking authorities, are starting to befuddle. Their minds are starting to go crazy. And they're wondering, what is going to happen? We'll continue this. We'll continue to examine this great work of befuddlement that God does to the religious leaders, but you and I need to always remember the attitude we need to adopt for ourselves is that we need to keep doing good. Why? Because God will come behind us and come around us, and He will befuddle the opposition when they try to stop us from doing the good and right and godly thing. I pray that has been a blessing to you, and I will see you in the next video.